Hello, I'm Phil Claridge. I'm from Geospot. I'd like to spend the next few minutes introducing you to a new initiative that TM4 are launching called Living Labs, and specifically the Living Labs around the smart city. So first, a few words around the Living Labs. The Living Labs is meant to be beyond the catalysts as done today, but to be a new, robust, neutral environment in which people can do long-term collaboration around TM Forum sandboxes and APIs. The TM Forum Smart City Lab, which is just coming together now, has only been in existence for a few weeks, and we're one of the first vendors who are involved in that. We'll focus on smart city initiatives, and the first thing we've been showing here today is this Catalyst Phase 1 at NICE. So we are part of the Catalyst program at the moment, but we hope to expand beyond the Catalyst programs. A little bit of perspective on smart cities first. It's quite different from telcos. Here's a slide we actually took from Cambridge, a local city that we work with, and they actually want to move along the same line as you may imagine on a telco. They want to collect the data, they want to store their data, they want to analyze the data, and then they want to use to predict what's happening in the city, both on a short time scale from hour to hour to address things such as traffic, and longer term so they can adapt things. For example, again, the city I'm involved in, Cambridge, is growing at 8% a year, so there's some significant choices. But it's different from telco. Smart cities have hundreds of data sets. They're collecting the data, sometimes but themselves, sometimes with other vendors. That data isn't cataloged, it isn't organized. There's no inventory of what's there. Most of any queries they do are ad hoc. If we look back at the slide we've got at the moment, most cities have a process for collecting at least a significant amount of data, but there may be data that's unavailable, such as traffic light data. Most of the data may be stored in separate parts of the system. The analysis, the prediction, and the adaptation is what they want to do. They want a data-centric view of their city, but they can't actually do that yet. Again, an example, as I said, from Cambridge, there are over 80 data sets there. A lot of it's traffic-related data and transportation environmental data. Some of it is transportation data, as you would imagine, from things like GPS and buses. Some of it's innovative and enabled by telcos. Cambridge, for example, sniffs Bluetooth devices entering and leaving the city. But once we can start to catalog the data in the cities, visualize and start to correlate the different data sets, we can get the big insights that the cities require. The long-term goal for a lot of cities is to get a digital twin which they can use to predict reality. And lastly, we think there'll be significant benefit from where we can take data from multiple cities in one platform, because cities generally don't or cooperate with us, they're not in competition. So if cities can actually see data from other cities and even just see different data sets that other cities are collecting, we feel there's a high value there in terms of actually cities being able to benchmark themselves and learn from each other. As I said, the data is challenging today. It's very siloed. Most of the use cases aren't transactional. This isn't like a billing or a CRM system in many cases. We have a large sets of data sets which are both real-time and batch that we've got to correlate together. And identity is a problem. There is no single person, like there might be on a SIM card on a telco network, to tie things back to. And the business models are emerging. I'm going to hand over at this point to Drew, who's going to talk a little bit about work that TM Forum have done.
Hey, so I'm Drew Jordan from Sigma Systems. We've been tracking the work that the TM Forum has been doing with the TR272 City as a Platform project, and we use this as a bit of an idea going into the Living Lab to use this as a basis for our architecture. This is a slide from their work, and what we've done is essentially come up with an architecture that covers a lot of the same concepts, but is very much focused around what we can actually do pragmatically within the concept of this Living Lab. Sigma and Geospot are the two initial partners that have been working on this project. Geospot has been working very much in the data layer. They have an excellent data visualization tool. They do data curation. And data, as Phil said, is a very, very key part of the smart city story. We've been using some real data from Smart Cambridge as part of our demo that we've put together for the Catalyst. And Sigma provides the catalog, the order capture, and order management tools, which we see as being a key part of the way that a city would actually manage, create, and we see that these tools are basically going to be used to manage the data that we view as a kind of resource that the cities have, and enable the city to make use of that data and share that data with their consumers, which are really the citizens and the businesses that are part of the city. What we've done as part of this project is try and identify the types of use cases, the types of data that are actually involved in a city. So we looked at 4 different types. So basically observational data, where this is data that is made available by the city for end consumers to use. So citizens would have access to this, businesses would have access to this. But really it's just like a one-way transaction or a non-transaction, a one-way usage of the data. We have transactional use cases, both monetized and non-monetized. The non-monetized case is really where the citizens and the businesses involved in the city are actually interacting with the system to provide actual data that goes into the databases, so they're actually updating data sources. Transactional is very much the kind of normal telco selling of services and products. We see this as one of the use cases where citizens would be able to actually purchase and configure services and products that the city wants to offer. And there's a whole business-to-business kind of use case built around that. Ultimately, as Phil said, the goal for cities is to be able to get to the point where they can do predictive analysis on the data that they actually have. And we haven't made it to that point yet as part of the Catalyst, but in ongoing work, we're actually going to head in that direction. So one of the things that we've addressed as part of the Catalyst is the fact that cities really don't have a good handle on the whole set of data that they are managing. So there's a whole bunch of consumers out there that need access to this data. They need to understand what data is there. And it's really up to the city to have a system in place where they can actually identify where the data is, how people are accessing it, who is allowed to access that, and ultimately potentially monetizing that data, because some of the data could actually be valuable. So we see, as part of our solution, the catalog plays a key role in actually providing this ontology. We've come up with a metadata model for the data to describe all of these aspects of the data. Once you actually have that layer of building blocks for the data, we could see layering on top of that some services, so exposing the data as a service, but also integrating and mashing up the possibilities between the network services, the mobility services, IoT, and cloud, and allowing the product managers for the city to basically innovate and come up with new services that they could present to their citizens and businesses that are part of the city.
As a second part of the presentations we're doing on the booth, we're actually being very careful to actually show a number of real data sets. We felt it was important to bring some large city data sets to the show to give people an appreciation of what city data looks like. And it doesn't look like call data records for some of the carriers who've been looking at it. The important thing is, as we've got for smart cities, whether the data comes from IoT, whether it comes from telco, or whether it comes from some of the existing 100 or more databases that smart cities have, is that all of these cities, we're really going to take them on a journey of actually discovering what some of the unknown information is hidden in these data. Many of the cities don't have a base of technologists to be able to say exactly what questions they want to ask. In some ways, we're looking for the unknown unknowns to actually let people understand, model, and infer things from their city. Just as background, some of the data sets we were bringing here for the demonstration is we brought the entire bus journey data set over about 3 or 4 years around the Cambridge area. We've got traffic information, we've got police reports, we've got a lot of city infrastructure such as street lights. We've got that as historic data and we've got some real-time data. But the important thing is these data sets in isolation have some value. It's once we start correlating between those data sets, so one can actually make inferences between them, that things start getting really interesting. And we've had a lot of fun showing some of those things to some of the people who come to the Catalyst booth, and we hope to provide ways of people to actually look at some of those data sets after the show as well. And beyond one city, we'd love to actually go further in future Catalysts and get many cities inside the same visualization platform to compare and contrast. So, in terms of wrap up, this is the very early stages of the Living Lab project. We're at phase 1, we're at day 1 effectively. Please do consider getting involved in the Living Labs generally. If you have an interest in smart cities, please do get involved in the smart cities. We'd welcome cities to come along and join in, share their problems, their solutions and their data. The vendor footprint we've got is anything but complete. There are a lot of other vendors we welcome. And then we'd like to use all of that information to basically form a library of city data and to use that to inform the design of new assets such as TM Forum APIs and use cases, and have a lot of fun understanding how smart cities really work. Thank you very much.